Kia ora and welcome everyone to today's webinar on integrating literacy and technology. I will open with a karakia for our session. Mauri ora kia mātou, arahina mātou ia mātou mahi, kimihia he huara hi mō te kaupapa o te mātauranga hangarau, a whina atu, a whina mai, te pau e here nei ia mātou, hui e, tāiki e. Today we're joined by Rebecca, a year 7 to 13 teacher, normally, with a deep passion for literacy and a sharp eye for what really holds learners back. Teaching across a diverse range of schools in Tamaki Makaurau and Taranaki, she kept seeing the same challenge play out across the motu. Students struggling to read, to learn and to express their thinking clearly, particularly as assessment demands increase in the senior years. That led Rebecca into evidence-based literacy practice and realization that literacy doesn't sit outside of the subject of teaching, it weaves through everything we do. In this webinar, Rebecca will unpack practical evidence-based ways to embed literacy authentically within technology teaching. Using a clear planning framework and adaptable strategies, you can apply across years 4 to 10 without adding to your workload. Big ask. Okay, over to you, Rebecca.
Kia ora. Just want to say thank you very much for having me. I feel like this is actually a really big honour, and I'm really stoked to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation.
You're welcome. We're really glad to have you on board.
Yay, so exciting. Okay, I will share my slides with everyone so that everyone can see that I'm not just talking to nothing. People can actually see what I got going on. Okay, cool. All right, so this is me. Hi. I am Rebecca Barrett. Been teaching for some time now, as Pip said, and it's just my thing, right? Teaching is just my thing. It's what I've kind of always wanted to do, other than when I thought I wanted to be a social worker at one point. But this is just it's my thing. And then once I found literacy in teaching, it was absolutely solidified. This is the right path for me. The coaching and mentoring aspect of being a teacher and being a teacher leader is my favorite part of teaching. And having all of my students just be able to get it and for them to click and for them to be able to succeed in all the things that they want to do, but that they can do that because I have played a part in helping them be able to read and write so that they can access all their cool subject areas. And technology is such a cool subject area. I started as an English teacher, and English is pretty cool, but technology is everyone's thing. Technology is really cool. I really like tech. Working with some really, really amazing technology teachers over the last couple of years in some high schools, and they just continue to astound me at how creative they are and how forward thinking and how they can just pick up something out of nothing and make something that I never would have even have thought even existed. And they can just get kids to do the most amazing things. So my aim today is to hopefully equip teachers, technology teachers, with some more strategies so they can help their kids to read and write better in their class because they can already make cool stuff. They can already make amazing world-changing things. I just want to help them be able to read and write better, to be able to express what they have done in a written form better than what is currently happening. So about me, I'm a partner to a very brummy Birmingham football lad and a mother to a very, very busy 4-year-old boy. Teacher of specialist literacy at old curriculum levels 1 to 3. So that's now kids that would actually sit probably in phases up to phase 2. Sorry, pause.
Looks like Rebecca has some interruptions in the classroom, perhaps. Um, we'll just give her a moment to sort that out and she will be back with us. And don't worry, with this recording, we can edit this bit straight out, Rebecca, and everyone's just waiting patiently.
Thank you
You're
very
all
much.
good.
All better now. We just had the loudspeaker come over saying, lock your block when you're done, because I'm still at school.
That's being a teacher, right? This is just real world stuff. Everyone can
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Very
Sorry. So my main interest at the moment is supporting subject area teachers in their own discipline because I'm not here anywhere to tell teachers what to teach for their content. That's your business and that is your speciality and you know your content area. I'm not a technology specialist, I'm a literacy specialist. So I'm not going to be here telling you you need to teach this and this. I'm giving you a framework of how you can teach what you're already teaching because you guys do amazing stuff. This year I've taken the plunge to jump down into a full year 7 and 8 intermediate only school. So year sevens are my thing this year apparently, and they are at the moment running me ragged. Year sevens get a bit crazy, but they are so much fun and it's a whole different world to what I thought it might be and I love it, absolutely love it. It's so exciting every day. I'm also a student myself. I am still in completing my Master of Education specializing in literacy. Through that I have found a whole other world to what I had already even learned. The research side of literacy is exciting. I'm a nerd. Okay, yeah. Next, we will go through just really quickly the overview of our presentation. So I'm going to define literacy for you guys and give you a bit of a framework for planning. And then we'll go through a super quick example lesson. I'm not going to take you through the actual whole lesson. I might gloss over some parts of it just in the interest of time. Also, when I'm teaching these lessons, it's normally a lot of call and response and the science of learning strategies and having a lot of involvement with the class rather than just me talking at people. But we do what we can with what we've got at the moment. So the first model I want to get into is Scarborough's reading robe. I hope that some people might have seen this before, and any year 7 and 8 teachers that have done any structured literacy training might have seen this. So this was by Hollis Scarborough in 2001. And what we have here is two main strands. We have the language comprehension strand, which is what people kind of usually think we're running with when we think about reading comprehension. And then we have the word recognition strand, which is what people usually think when we're running with baseline actual decoding, the reading the words on the page kind of stuff. So when we have the language comprehension and the word recognition, and we have them intertwining together, becoming increasingly strategic and increasingly automatic, we then are skilled readers. Skilled reading is the fluent execution and coordination of word recognition and language comprehension. So we use this rope metaphor from Hollis Scarborough, which I think is perfect because it is a rope, it is intertwined. We can't have one without the other. It's impossible to have our kids actually understanding and comprehending what they are reading, what they're having in front of them on the page, if they're missing too many of those words. So if they have read one whole page of text and they are only comprehending, they're only actually decoding, actually being able to lift off the page to hear in their brains or to say out loud, actually decoding out those words. If they're only getting just over half those words, or if they're only getting 70% of the words, that's 30% that they have absolutely no chance of understanding. And if you think about that in a sentence of 10 words, you have 3 words that you're not understanding. Likely those 3 words are the multisyllabic, longer, big words, the important words, the ones who hold the actual meaning for the sentence. They have no clue what that sentence was about. They're missing what those big words are. They're missing being able to actually lift those words off the page. They have no clue what we're actually trying to teach them about. We give them a reading. I don't know what it's about. That's what we get all the time because They're not reading it. So in the secondary space, especially, and so pertinently year 9, 10, 7, 8, all the way through from 4, 5, 6, it's such a prevalent issue right now in New Zealand that so many of our kids do not have the decoding strategies to actually be able to lift as many words off the page as we need them to. So part of being able to fix that is when we can do some actual decoding strategies in our class. I'm not asking you to teach phonics. I'm not asking you to have reading groups and spelling lessons and all that kind of thing. I'm just giving you some really quick strategies that you can use every lesson. Really simple ones. So don't get scared. Don't get scared. The next model I want to yap about is the writing ropes. We had our reading rope, and now we can have our writing rope. We like a rope metaphor. For skilled writing, we need to use critical thinking and syntax. We need to note text structure and be able to use it and write to fulfill the structure of the text. We need to craft our sentences. And we need some transcription skills, some spelling, some handwriting and keyboarding. I would expect that in technology, we might have a technology booklet that we are writing into, either online or by hand. We might have a tech journal where we record our thoughts and our experiences of what we've been doing. Or we might have some worksheets where we fill in the blanks or fill in a table kind of thing. For all of those things, we would need transcription skills. So spelling, handwriting, keyboarding. Thankfully, the New Zealand government has required that everyone is to teach handwriting at least up to year 8. So hopefully we should be seeing some better handwriters coming through. We should also hopefully be seeing some better spellers, but if we don't, it's still our responsibility as well. No, you don't have to teach full-on spelling lessons. We would hope that part of your English department is covering some of that, but of course literacy is everyone's responsibility. So here is some really quick strategies that we are able to use for those, because I know that spelling and that handwriting and that can be a bit stressful for some teachers. I will go over text structure and I will go over some syntax things as well. The last model is from researcher Tim Shanahan, and he did this really cool pyramid on disciplinary literacy. So we look at basic literacy in our bottom tier there. Basic literacy is skills such as decoding, knowledge of high-frequency words that underlie virtually all reading tasks. That would be our basic literacy that we would be expecting our year 1, 2, 3, 4 teachers to be teaching. That's the majority of their literacy block. Our intermediate literacy, our skills that are common to many tasks, including generic comprehension strategies, common word meanings, basic fluency. We're going into that from year 1 all the way up through to year 8, and often high schools are doing that in year 9 and 10 as well. Disciplinary literacy is skills specialised to history, science, mathematics, literature, other subject matter. We do this in every year level. We do all of these in every single year level. Because we teach history in year 1 and we teach history in year 10. We do it through all of it. How it becomes more particular to our individual subject areas is the actual skills that are relevant to our subject areas. So in disciplinary literacy, we have quite a few skills that are really important for technology and design, for example, that aren't so common in other areas. So technology and design, we have diagrams, instructional lists, we have some really technical vocabulary coming out, and we have some annotated drawings, which happen quite often too. When I go through technology classes, I see them with their workbooks out and they are drawing a model, or they have a picture of a model of something and they're having to annotate out all the bits. That's a really important skill to be able to learn, to be able to do, and that is actually a skill that we do as we read and as we look at the drawings, as we look at the pictures when we read, but often not a skill that we teach them in reading time, or a skill that we actually show them that we are doing when we are reading. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at today. Lesson structure that I'll be doing with you guys is we'll start with some vocabulary teaching. and some review. So this is what a lesson structure could be similar, maybe every day, every 2 days, because of course we have to have practical days as well. You could maybe do the first half of the lesson, then finish with practical. You could do practical first, finish with the second half of the lesson, or do the first half of the structure and then some practicals. Mix it up, match it up. Just get it done sometime in your week. Vocabulary teaching, review, and some decoding strategies there. And then we'll enter into some background contextual information, starting our top of the rope. We'll continue on with our top of our reading rope. We'll finish top of the rope with some oral language, and then we'll do some writing rope. So our vocabulary teaching, review, decoding strategies, that is our top and bottom of reading rope, and we'll also do some shared reading, which is going to be bottom of the rope fluency as well. Here is our topic that we're going to be working with today, designing technology to solve real community needs. I took inspiration from the Year 10 curriculum, just because I needed something to ground this in. So I chose it to be in a local context, so in Oakura and Northland, because we've had some pretty recent and severe flooding events up there lately. It's been in the news quite a bit. Hopefully our kids will have some kind of background knowledge on it. If not, they're often likely to have background knowledge on any kind of flooding. So I've chosen a topic that people should know something about. If not, that's okay. I wouldn't actually expect them to have much background knowledge on it. I would be expecting to give them as much background knowledge as they need to be able to fully participate in these lessons. We have an integrated focus on technology and literacy together. This is from Year 10. This is what I stole from the curriculum. Analyze how design choices affect usability, safety, sustainability, and the environment, and investigate how culture and environment affect the design of a product. These are the main ideas that I would be looking to cover in this unit. So this is one lesson within a unit. Analyze how flood warning systems impact safety, maybe early evac. Consider the usability. Examine sustainability, evaluate environmental context, consider cultural responsiveness, and critique equity issues. These are the kinds of things that I would be looking at to cover in this topic. Again, I am not a technology specialist. You might have other things you would wish to cover. You might think that some of those are not good things to cover and you might have much better ideas. I am so happy if you have better ideas. I'm not a technology specialist. I'm just literacy. So in lesson 1, understanding the problem and the purpose. Our learning intentions here would be to identify consumer needs in Oakura Northland, and we want it to be related to the recent flooding. We're also going to read and interpret some technical explanations here. Let's start with vocab. So with vocab, a really easy way to teach vocab is to look at the morphology of our words, because often our heavy vocab in tech is multisyllabic and it has prefixes and suffixes on our bases. So in this word, transmission, because we're all great readers, we can say this word, we know this word, transmission. The front part, trans, is a prefix. A prefix is a unit of meaning that can be attached to the front of many, many, many words. So trans is our prefix that means across. If you think of any other word you know that has trans at the front of it, it will be meaning something across. So if we have trans-Tasman flights, it will be across the Tasman, trans. Trans means across. Miss in the middle is a base, because we attach our affixes onto our base. Miss means to send, and the ION shin suffix means the state of. Again, a suffix is like a prefix, has meaning, can be attached to many, many, many words. So if we're looking at that morphology, that makeup of it, we're looking at the state of sending something across. You'll see that I have put those red lines in place where our syllables are. Affixes, prefixes, suffixes are their own whole syllable always. That is important to know because that makes the word so much shorter that we have to read. Transmission. If we know some spelling rules, we would know that the SI in shin is the sh sound, but that can be taught anytime. Also, to find my syllables, I've noted where our vowels are. I know that every time we have a vowel, that's going to be a syllable. So if I'm finding it really hard to read this word, I find my vowels, that's going to give me some syllables. I can then also note where my affixes are, my prefixes and suffixes, block them out, and my word is so much easier to read. That's a decoding strategy. That is how to lift that word up off the page. So the state of sending something across. I then have some examples written in. So measures can be taken to prevent transmission of the virus. Hopefully people have some background knowledge on that sentence because of late, but surely we would be able to discuss quite quickly transmission and what transmission means. We are receiving a live transmission from the scene of the accident. They might have heard that one as well, but if not, it's very easy to decode what that word transmission means in the sentence because we know that it is to sending across something, the state of sending something across. We are receiving a live transmission from the scene of the accident. We're seeing live from the accident. And then this last one, please transmission this document to the manager. It's important that we give examples and non-examples so that students can see where this actually does fit into words. So please transmission this document to the manager. It could possibly make sense, but it's not the right word for this context. From our bottom of the rope, we're on word recognition. So in our phonological awareness, we've just found our syllables. Decoding, we have found a way to pull it out. And sight recognition, once we have pulled this word off the page multiple times, it will become familiar. It will become sight recognition. Sight recognition is just being able to read the word in one eye sweep. So we don't actually have to go back and decode out that word every time. So sight recognition is just reading it in one eye sweep, like fluent readers can do. Next vocab word we're just doing two is infrastructure. Infra means below. Again, you can see my vowels, you can see my syllables split. Infrastructure. Infrastructure. Below, build, the state of. Infrastructure below, build, the state of. It's the state of parts below a building. State of parts that have been built below a building. The term's infrastructure was made to handle this level of rain. We can talk about what infrastructure means in the sentence. Tamaki Makoto's infrastructure includes the Sky Tower and Viaduct Harbour. Does it? I thought infrastructure was below the buildings, under the ground probably, so infrastructure probably wouldn't work in this sentence here. I think Sky Tower and Viaduct Harbour are buildings, or they are important monuments, or they are things that have been built above ground, so infrastructure doesn't work here. Now we're going to start building some background knowledge. I have some photos here of some of the devastation from those floods. We can look at with our kids who, what, when, where, why, and how. I have for them that it was in the Oakura floods in Northland, New Zealand, January 2026. So I have the when and the where already written for them because maybe they don't know. We can look at what the problems are of this flood, and we can look at who was affected. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Easy peasy, just to get our class thinking, just to get us yapping about those floods. Totally, here, take the moment to just let kids go off on a tangent and, oh, I know this about it, and this, oh, I heard this on the radio, I heard this on the news, this is what my auntie said about it. Let them yap, let them have some time. Don't need to control the whole lesson every single moment. Let them have some time to yap about what's going on. This builds our background knowledge. We also can hear our kids using some of our vocabulary. We will know what they know about floods because we can hear them in their groups, in their turn and talk partners. When we call on kids to answer, we can hear what words they are using. So we will know what kind of level of vocabulary they have around this. Some kids will surprise you. Absolutely, they will surprise you. And they'll have vocabulary beyond what you even thought kids would ever be able to have. And sometimes they start talking all about everything that you want to be about to teach them. And sometimes those kids are the ones who can lead. Those kids are our ones who we can not rely on to answer all our questions because that means the rest of our kids can become very lazy. But they're the ones that we can ask, hey, can you further what this kid just said to give us some depth into some of that? The onus is on the teacher to give the depth. We can always ask students to add, for sure. Verbal reasoning will come in here, inferencing, metaphor, all those verbal reasoning structures, because we are looking at an image and we are having to reason out loud while we're discussing this. We're having to reason who, what, when, where, why, how. And then we have some literacy knowledge that comes in here as well, because literacy knowledge here is visual, it's pictures. That's still part of literacy. Next, we go into our read aloud, think aloud. So this is where we want to model reading like a technologist. We want to show them how to read for our technology subject area. Because reading for tech is different to reading for music, and it's different to reading for English, and it's different to reading for sport. We'd be looking for different things. We would like to identify in our read aloud, think aloud, cause and effect relationships, because we know that's important to your subject area, and labeling of any diagram parts or creating diagrams while we're reading to help aid our understanding, and interpreting some vocabulary in context. So we're not going to teach every single vocabulary word, heavy word that we can find in our text. We're probably just going to be teaching about 4, maybe 5. 4 is probably all right. We don't want to load their brains with trying to have them remember too much all at once. Otherwise, they're not going to remember any of it. So we'll just only teach about 4. Ideally, you would have 4 for each lesson. You would recap those at the start of every lesson. I would do start and end of every lesson, just because I know so many of our kids have such low working memories. And then those vocab words would build up over the unit. So this takes prior planning, quite a lot of it. These lessons, adding literacy in, it's not a heavier workload, it's just a different way of thinking about it. It could be a heavier workload for maybe the first unit that you do, because obviously when we're changing something, when we're learning something new, it's always a bit heavier. But it should only take 1 unit for you to be able to get into it, because it's the same structure, and our kids love structure. They love, love, love structure, and you guys know this. They love structure because it keeps everything safe, it keeps everything dependable, and they just know what to expect. So the same lesson structure when we do our literacy integration works every time. We need to make sure that everything that we do as good readers when we're reading technology texts is visible to our students. That's why it's a read aloud, think aloud, because we're not just reading the text out loud to them, we're actually pausing and showing them what we are thinking as we are reading. We are modeling that comprehension in context in the moment. Really good idea to have planned out really quickly in your reading. Have your reading printed out and just note where you want to pause and ponder, where you want to stop, where you want to explain a vocab word in the moment, those kinds of things. Use the top of the rope strands. Here is our text. It's going to run over a couple of slides. In the classroom, I would quite often have this as on the screen, on the slides for us on my whiteboard. Or I would have it printed out as a single sheet or a double page sheet, whatever, and have my kids read along with me. They would read some sentences with me, a choral read, everyone read at the same time. I would read some and they would repeat back to me, a repeat. And sometimes I would have just them read, not individuals. I would have the whole class read to me. And then I can then have them, so if I have them read a whole sentence or 2 sentences, then I can say, hey, I love what you just read about, blah, blah, blah. And then I can note something that was important about that for them, because I am modeling that comprehension and context. So, how flood warning systems work. Flood warning systems are technological systems designed to detect rising water levels, alert communities before flooding occurs. These systems are especially important in low-lying coastal areas where storm surges and heavy rainfall can cause rapid flooding. In this one, I probably would have got to the end here and then noted, oh, wouldn't that have been great for Oakura? Detecting rising sea levels. Flood warning systems use specialized devices called sensors to monitor environmental conditions. Monitor, I know that monitor means to keep an eye out for, to look. So I think flood warning systems might be able to keep an eye on what's going on in their environment. That's a really good idea. I'm so glad people have made this. In coastal areas, tidal gauges measure sea level height in real time. These gauges use pressure sensors or floating mechanisms to detect changes in water level. That's a really good idea that they can float, because I think if they are floating, then it hopefully would create less of an impact on the sea floor. They wouldn't have to have something screwed into the sea floor and wrecking our seabeds. Some systems also include rainfall gauges to measure precipitation. I think precipitation means rain. River level sensors to track rising inland water. Wave buoys to detect storm surges offshore. Wave buoys, those are those like sometimes round like circles, blow up circles that I see sometimes out in the wharf, and they show where often a maybe an anchor is, or sometimes they show us how high or low the sea is. That would be a wave buoy that would detect storm surges offshore. When water levels rise above a predetermined threshold, already found, pre means before, predetermined threshold, the sensors automatically record the data and trigger the next stage of the system. That's cool. That sounds like it could be quite automated and maybe hands off for people. That means that would reduce person labor. Transmitting data. We've learned what transmitting means. Trans means across and mit means to see, transmitting. Mit and miss, same base. Once detected, the information must be transmitted quickly and accurately. Sensors are connected to data loggers, which send real-time information to monitoring centers using cellular networks. That's like on my phone. That's what my phone runs off, cell towers. Satellite communication, like in outer space, satellites. Radio frequency transmitters, maybe like walkie-talkies? I'm not sure. We'll maybe look that one up together. Fiber optic or wired connections. That's cool. I think I learned about fiber optic cabling when they were putting fiber internet into my house. At the monitoring centre, computer software analyses the incoming data. If the data indicates a significant flood risk, the system automatically generates an alert. In some cases, trained emergency management staff verify the data before issuing a warning. Oh, that's good. That means that it's not just relying on the system. We have people checking it as well. That makes me feel a lot safer, because that shows me that it's kind of double checked. That makes me feel safe. That makes me feel like I can rely on it. This system sounds like it's quite reliable. Issuing warnings. When a flood risk is confirmed, warnings are communicated to the public using multiple channels to ensure broad coverage. Cool, so they actually get flood warnings out to everyone, hopefully quickly. These may include outdoor sirens in affected areas, mobile phone alerts, emergency notification apps, radio and television broadcasts, social media updates. Oh, those things run on this way of transmitting data, cellular networks. I thought that was going to be my phone, and it is. It's when they send me out those emergency alerts, my phone makes that horrific noise. Emergency notification and apps, same thing. Oh, this is making so much sense. Using multiple warning methods increases reliability in case one communication channel fails. They've really thought about this. This makes me feel safe. The goal is to provide residents with enough time to evacuate, protect property, and move to safer locations. Nice. System reliability and redundancy. Redundancy would have been one of the words they would have taught prior, just so everyone knows. Effective flood warning systems are designed with redundancy, meaning backup power supplies and alternative communication pathways are included. Oh, so they have like a fail safe. This is important because severe weather events can damage infrastructure and cause power outages. Totally. When they had those floods, surely because it's flooding the ground, surely all the pipes and things underneath the ground got flooded out and they couldn't use some of that infrastructure. By combining environmental monitoring, real-time data transmission, and rapid public alerts, really fast public alerts, they do that on my phone. I get it all the time. Flood warning systems reduce risk and improve community safety. Done. That is how we do the read aloud. I think it's quite simple once you get the hang of it because you're just modeling what comes out of your brain when you are reading it. The next thing we would want to do is to tap the text. If you are a high school teacher, you will know that the CAAs, the Common Achievement Assessment, the literacy, reading, writing, and then the maths numeracy one, they are topical. They are difficult for so many of our kids to pass. Quite often they really fail in the writing at the moment, and it's because they are unable to write for intended audience or with the correct purpose and be able to write in the structure of that text type. So when we read any text, we will tap the text, and when we write any text, we will tap the text. Just then we are making it really clear for our students what our text type is, who our intended audience is, and what our purpose is. If you're in the upper levels, maybe 10 and above, you might want to have your students look at the author's purpose and the reader's purpose because they can be different things. When we tap the text, we would look at the text type, looking at any structures that are important in that text. So informative texts have different structures to persuasive texts. They will have different subheadings and whatnots. They'll also have a completely different structure to a poem. They'll have a completely different structure to a narrative story. Using our text types is important because it signals for our students what they can skim and scan for, what they can look for really quickly to find what they need to find from their text. Our intended audience here was people interested in flood damage prevention. That's just what I came up with. You might think something different. That's fine. It is whatever you want this to be with your students because we are looking at it for different reasons. Author's purpose: to educate people about how flood warning systems work. After we have gone through and looked at the text type and looked at the features of text type and found them, annotated them, quick discussion, we can then jump to partner reading, paragraph shrinking. This one is super important for our reading fluency. Repeated readings have a really, really high efficacy rate for actually helping students with not only the reading, the fluency, the decoding fluency, but also comprehension, really, really high. So in partner reading, paragraph shrinking, partner one will read for 5 minutes. As they are reading, they will pause at the end of each paragraph or page, depending on how big it is. It might be some very, very short paragraphs, like 1-sentence paragraphs. We often see that on news articles. We would then pause at the end of that, like actual paragraph section, that subheaded section. We'd summarize, shrink each paragraph down to who it was about, what they were doing. In our younger year levels, we would stick with who and what doing. So now sentence stays at a simple sentence, just a who and a what doing. From year 5 upwards, they can start adding, particularly in 7 upwards. We definitely want them to be doing our when, where, why, how to get that further information into our sentence. I would be expecting my kids to do this orally. Once they were fluent in this process, they would then be writing our shrinks in the margin. They'll be writing their shrinks at the end of the paragraph, or they'll be writing them in their book next to our reading. Partner 2 then reads for 5 minutes. If partner 1 doesn't get through the whole reading, the same reading we've just done altogether, if partner 1 doesn't get through the whole reading, that's all good. Partner 2 will pick up from where partner 1 finished. If they get through the whole reading in partner 1, if partner 1 gets through the entire reading and they still have time to spare, that's all good. They will start again from the start. Repeated reading. Partner 2 reads it still. For 5 minutes, we read for 5 minutes each. We will continue to summarize and shrink. Partner 1 does paragraph shrinking, partner 2 does paragraph shrinking. It's important when we set this up that we note to our students that they need to be good reading buddies. If our partner struggles on some of the words, we can help them. We can help them read that word. We can tell them what that word is. We can help them split out using our decoding strategy of finding our morphemes, finding our affixes, our syllables, our prefixes and suffixes. We can do that, and they can do that. And they actually like that challenge. Sometimes getting them to read out loud to their partner gets a bit nerve-wracking for them, but having the expectation and holding to it, it does pay off, and they do it. In the way that you would partner them up, ask your English department or your social studies department, whoever does the literacy testing. They will often, these days, have a DIBBLES assessment they have done. Ask if you can get access to their DIBBLES records, and then you can rank your class from best readers to worst readers in terms of their accuracy or in terms of their words correct per minute. And then you'd take the bottom half, the top half, put them together side by side. So then your top student isn't with your lowest student and isn't just with a friend. They are with a middle student. You'd pair them up that way. If you don't have access to that data, that's totally fine. You would pair them up with someone who they are comfortable reading with, but someone who is a little bit better or a little bit worse than themselves reading. We wouldn't put a really high reader with a really low reader because that's just shame. When we are finishing the reading section of our lesson, we would quite easily be able to do a quick turn and talk. Say one consumer need Ōakura residents have after the flooding event. Here we have because, but, so sentences. If you've heard of the writing revolution, then you're in my world. And this is a strategy from Writing Revolution. A consumer need Ōakura residents have after a flooding event is something. They would give us one. Hopefully our kids would say something about flood warning systems or warning alarms, and they need one because they'd be able to tell us why. A consumer need Ōakura residents have after a flooding event is but is a change of direction. So they need this, but this is a barrier. A consumer need Ōakura residents have after the flooding event is so is cause and effect. They need this, so we should do something about it. Be specific. What is the something we should do about it? We should have the high expectation of our students that they are able to do this. They are all able to do this, because they are. And we should have the expectation that they should be using the vocabulary that we have been learning. They should be using words and ideas from the reading that we have been using. As I said, you could now stop and do your practical part, or you can continue and you can have a literacy day, however you want to structure your day, however you want to structure your week. In my tech journal, I'm going to start doing writing an informative text for an audience. Imagine that. We just read an informative text and looked at the structure of it and looked at how it has subheadings and a title and the kind of language that is used. And now we're going to use that same structure to write our own informative text. So we have a model text to run off. Step 1. We're going to look at what my surface feature goals are for this piece of writing. I chose surface features because in the schools I have been working in recently, surface features like punctuation, spelling, that kind of thing has been really tough for those kids. So I would tailor the step 1 goal that I am giving my students. I would tailor that to the overarching need. Step 2, what is my positive self-talk if this gets a bit hard? Now, this might feel a little bit wishy-washy, but it actually really works. It actually really, really works. They can just write their positive self-talk really quickly on the side, or they can have someone say it to each other in a turn and talk. You could have a speech bubbles up on your wall of options for what positive self-talk could be if this gets a bit hard. So then when you're walking around and a kid goes, nah, I'm done, I'm over this, I can't do this, or they're sitting there and they're just sad, upset, shutting down, whatnot, you can say, hey, what was your positive self-talk? Let's do it together. Let's say it together. And then, even though it feels silly, It really does help to pull them out. Step 3 is we're going to plan our work. We would never expect our kids just to go and write their paragraph, just to go and write their sentence without actually having properly planned it first. That's setting them up for failure. Plan my work. We're going to tap our text. What is the text that I am writing? Tap the text that I'm about to write. I'm going to organize a plan to fit my text type. I'm going to write in some vocab and use some really hearty transition words like next and after and although. And in my plan, I'm not going to write full sentences. I'm going to do caveman talk. So I'm not writing full sentences. I'm not writing sentences that need a who and a what doing. I might just be writing who. I might just be writing the what doing. I might just be writing the when or the why. I don't want full sentences in my plan because otherwise it's not a plan. I'm just writing my paragraph already. So we need to actually really teach our kids how to plan. So that is really modeling it for them. I would have been looking at that model text that we read. Then I would reverse plan. I would turn that text onto our plan. I'll show you what the planning sheet looks like in a minute. I will reverse plan it so then my kids can see what the original plan would have looked like from that text. And then step 4, finally, we are writing. This might not happen in one day. This writing sequence might happen over 2 or 3 days. It's really important that we put in the work before we start writing. Then step 5 is we're going to edit. Read my work out loud to myself. If we did our writing yesterday or 2 days ago, and then today we're going to edit what we wrote, quite often we're going to read it for what it is rather than what we thought we were writing. So we pick up our mistakes a lot easier. Reading it out loud is really important because when we read it out loud, we do actually have to read what is on the page rather than what we think is written there. So to edit, we can use cups. Look at our capital letters, our usage of words. Do we have a better word we could have put there? Do we have a higher academic word we could use? Our punctuation and our spelling. These are things that we would expect kids to be checking while they are writing, but we know often that they don't. We know often they just write and then they have to go through and catch everything up. However, if our school overall is doing a really good job at teaching writing systematically, our kids might be doing this properly as they are writing it. We can then look at arms, add sentences, add words, add description, remove those things, move them around. We might need to reorder some things, some sentences, and we might substitute some things in and out. Here is my planner. So you'll see that we have step 1, step 2, step 3 where we tap. We have our structure for our plan. Remember, this is not where we write in full sentences, just our caveman talk plan. Introduction sentence, we'll need a who, a what, a when, why, where. Maybe not even in that order. We might start with the when, we might start with the where. We then have our idea that we want to write about, and we have some supporting details for that idea, so our explanation. We then have our second idea, and we have some detailed explanation of that. So you might be writing about the same one idea, but these are sub-ideas that make up that idea. So remember, before we had our main idea and then we had our subheadings. So we would be able to create a subheading for what our idea is. An idea, we would be looking at writing what that idea is still, as well as having a subheading, because that is what we have for informative text types. Step 4, we write it. That should say step 5. We edit my writing. It even says there, read my work aloud. We must do that. And we also have our vocabulary and transition word box at the bottom. I really like having that box at the bottom. It means that our kids can like brain dump all these cool words that we've just learned, all these cool words that we know about it. We don't have to leave them to do this by themselves. Absolutely. We can do the first step. We can do all of this apart from the write. We can do all of this as a whole class. We can do all of this together. We can do this in groups. This can be whole class. We don't have to have them do this by themselves. And it's not cheating to use each other's ideas and to use the teacher's ideas. That's not the point. The point is to write an informative text. It's not a test. They don't need to use entirely their own ideas and be left to their own devices. We can do this together. Quite often, our kids struggle to actually have control over the sentences that they write, and we see a whole lot of run-on sentences, or we see bits and bits and bits of sentences, and you're reading through and you're like, well, I don't even know where you're going with this anymore, mate. So we can look at sentence level writing. Again, if you've heard the writing revolution, you are on my wavelength. We can look at sentence types: statement, question, command, exclamation. Some of those would not be appropriate for an informative text. A command or an exclamation probably aren't appropriate. An exclamation uses an exclamation mark. A command tells someone what to do. We're just informing about a topic. We're not needing to persuade. We're not asking our people to take action. So a command wouldn't be necessary. Statement, maybe, question, probably not. But statements, we'd be looking at using quite a lot of statements in our informative text. Something that we would need to teach them is sentence versus fragment. So if it is a whole sentence or not, sentence versus fragment. A fragment is just a bit of a sentence. To be a real sentence, not to be a crappy sentence, we need both a who and a what, doing at minimum. We can then extend our sentence by using those what, when, where, why, hows. Compound sentences. I know this is getting a bit scary for some of us, but we can do this. Compound sentences are sentences that have our fanboys words. So for and nor, but, or, yet, and so. Fanboys' words live in the middle of a sentence between two ideas. They join two ideas together. Before our fanboys word, we have a comma. To be a compound sentence, we want maximum of one of those fanboys words in our sentence. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. That means we don't want our kids having and so, and so, and so, and four so's in a sentence. We just want one. We also then lastly can look at complex sentences, and I'm not going to go too heavy into complex sentences because this can get a little confusing for anyone who is newbie to this, but these ones have our I saw a wubub words. So these are words which signal a dependent clause. So complex sentences have two parts. They have a dependent and an independent. The independent part is just a simple sentence, works on its own, and the dependent part is started by an I saw a wubub. I saw a wububs are if, since, as, when, although, while, after, before, until, because. You'll see there that I've written max 2. We don't want kids writing because. Use 2 I saw a wububs maximum. Chuck a full stop in. You're needing a new sentence. Here are some helpful literacy links and resources if you wanted them. So teaching syntax, sentence structure, if you wanted to dive into any of that to help, because you can tell your kids that for your introduction sentence, I want a compound sentence, or I want a complex sentence. I want you to start it with after blah, 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 or your ideas or your details. You might say, in your details, I want you to use 2 I saw a wububs. In your conclusion, I need a fanboys. So syntax project and syntax project lessons and posters. So the posters are just what the sentence structures look like. Morpheme mapper, there's where you can put in one of your vocab words and it will split out for you what your affixes are, what your prefixes and bases and suffixes are, and it will tell you what they mean as well. So morpheme mapper is super handy. The writing structure that we used comes from SRSD, Think SRSD, so Releasing Writers, SRSD. And it's a framework that has been developed over years and years and years and years. It actually started in like the 70s and 60s, like it's really, really old, but it's really thorough and it gets kids results at all year levels. It is a way to explicitly teach how to think about writing and how to write. It really, really breaks down those science of learning, I do, we do, you do, gradual release structures in it, um, to ensure that our kids can be released to do it on their own. I've put the code. Liz Kane spelling or ideal works as well, just if you wanted to look at that. I also have there for you structured literacy in secondary schools, a little bit of promo. That's actually a Facebook page that me and a couple others run. Feel free to join. You don't have to, but we do have people from every subject area in there looking at how we can integrate and what things can look like. Oak Academy is a set of resources from the UK, and they have ready-made slides and they have ready-made resources to give you ideas to help you teach all different subject areas. They have everything on there. And then the writing pathway. The writing pathway is where you can amazingly put in some anonymized student work and then it will look at it for you. It is AI. It'll look at it for you in terms of telling you what lessons your kids need to learn in writing, and it will spit back out for you the lessons and the worksheets for you to teach those writing structures or those how to develop ideas, those kinds of things in writing. So writing pathway is fabulous. And you can put in what your topic is, what you are working on, and it will make sure that every single word in it is dedicated to the lessons that you are learning. So it keeps everything actually contextualized and keeps it in your context. Yeah, that's me. Pip, if you want to come back and you can tell me what to do next.
Awesome. So awesome. I am, all these acronyms are, swirling around in my brain. Cups, arms, fanboys. I saw a wub is one of my favorites. How am I going to remember this? And we've got that question in the question and answer. They want the link to go over what was presented. So yes, this will be up on our YouTube channel, but also if you go into our Arcor, actually I'll share, if you want to just stop sharing, Rebecca,
Yeah.
and I'll share my page so that they can see a link. What's this one here? Yeah, cool. So if people go into the Arcor forum space, under TENS and conference resources are all our resources from conference, and Rebecca presented this at conference. So the slideshows there, as well as some resources that you handed out as well. So I'm assuming some of those worksheets in there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I put the fanboys and I saw Wubba posters in there as well. I'm not sure. But I actually did a slightly different presentation at conference. I used a different lesson. So if they
Ah,
go look at that, then they'll have two
then they'll have
options.
two.
Yeah,
Awesome.
at conference I did creating a pneumatic system.
Oh, awesome, great. And funnily enough, you just talked about all the floods, and our last webinar last month was with Kimberly Sullins, and she's a STEAM teacher in Auckland, and her students were designing a STEAM response to the floods in Auckland. So
Oh man,
marry
cool.
these two together, and you have a unit, this really strong unit. So how
Oh
awesome is
man.
that? So those of you here today, make sure you go in and watch last month's webinar. I've also got another question here. It was around reading out loud. So I guess that there's the you can easily revert to just showing a video and having a discussion afterwards. And how did you find text like that? And did you develop it yourself? Like, I guess people are short of time, and how do they develop text like that to unpack?
Yep.
and read aloud.
So I can often find text related to what I want to be teaching through news articles. Go through news articles, and often they have hyperlinks out to other domains that have further information. Or you can then go look at products and their web pages because they'll have quite often an informational catalogue, or they'll have a brochure of something. Any text is a text. It doesn't have to be a whole big long text. It can just be an ad for something. It can be the ad for the system that is in the back of this magazine. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So not overthink it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. I'm really glad you put up that link for a morpheme mapper because I was busy in the background trying to find it on Google. Like, how do I
Yeah.
do this? How do I
Yeah.
work this out? And I didn't suggest that one. So thank you for putting that up.
Yeah, so if you struggle to find, if Morpheme Mapper doesn't have it, you can look up etymology online, Etymology, etymology online, and that will give you what the bases or the prefixes and suffixes, sometimes not the affixes, the prefixes, suffixes, but definitely tell you the origin of the base and the origin of the word, and will help you with that meaning.
Great. I found that one and I put infrastructure in just to test it. So nice. I was doing all of that in the background. Hey, awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. If you would like to give us some feedback, those of you watching, there's the link in the QR code, not only on what we presented today, but also future ideas and what needs you have out there. If you would like to start a conversation about this, jump into our ACL forum space. And again, that's where you'll find similar presentation from Rebecca from a conference. Our next Wednesday webinar is with Master Joiners. So Alison Delaney, who is the CEO, is going to talk to us about joinery as a future-focused career that blends design, CADs, hands-on learning, and quality craftsmanship. So a little bit of departure from literacy and technology. So that one will be on Wednesday, 25th of March from 4 till 5. And I will close up with a karakia. Once again, thanks so much, Rebecca. Kia mātou katoa, kua mutu mātou ia mātou mahi, ia mātou kaupapa hoki, arahina mātou kia kawe mātou ia mātou heipapa, kia whakatapua mātou ki ngā kaupapa me mea e whakapono, manakitia mai mātou. Kia ora everyone, thanks.